Last year, I was here to talk about mainly focusing on Taiwan. And I remember that the main message, or say after my speech, many people use one phrase. They say, Taiwan is back. I never knew that we were missing. But to many people, they say, well, somehow that Taiwan was not as active as other Asian economies. And to many of the Western friends, that they haven't heard much about Taiwan. 3 years ago, the number of direct flights between Taiwan and China was 0, because everybody traveled from Taiwan to, say, Shanghai, had to go through Hong Kong, okay, and then go through China. And of course, Chinese could not come to Taiwan anyway, so just the trouble was all ours. Only 3 years, the number of the direct flights was increased from 0 flights to 558 flights per week. And almost every flight was fully booked. So we say that a lot of our business people are working or having factory and doing business in Shanghai. They just go there for meeting, come back home for dinner. But last year, we had economic growth rate of 10.9%. Not only that, the private investment increased by 33%. In comparison with Hong Kong, Singapore, and South Korea, if you look at the government and the private sector investment total together, they all had single digit of the investment increase. So what's the reason that so many people last year invest in Taiwan? Because they really see these new opportunities.
After having heard this fascinating presentation by Dr. Liu about the fact that Taiwan is back, I think that I would like to say to you that Europe is still there. Actually, I have come with a few figures which I won't comment in detail, but you can see that in terms of GDP growth, even though Europe is, as you know, going through a crisis of currency, you can see on this table that especially for 2011 and 2012, the expectations of growth still remain very stable. And I think the key word about Europe is stability, and that's why Europe can attract investors. Why actually an Asian investor, especially having invested these past years in Asia and having made a fortune in Asian real estate, should invest into Europe? I think this is essentially a case of forecasts or expectations and a matter of risk. In terms of forecasts, at least the forecast that we have at BNP Paribas Real Estate is that Asian returns on real estate should not be as high in the 5 to 10 years to come as they have been in the 10 past years. China, taking the Chinese example first. So we think that the expected return on an Asian basket of real estate assets should be in the range of 10 to 10.5%. With a standard deviation which is in the range of 21–22%. So a medium level of risk, however, probably increased by current volatility on real estate. So my point would certainly not be to say this is time for Asian investors, having invested into Asia, to shift massively to Europe. My point is rather to say that this is certainly the time to mitigate the risk profiles encapsulated in Asian portfolios by balancing it with attractive assets in Europe.
Today we can see that there is big interest of Chinese investors to Russian market. Mostly it's on Russian projects which is under state and governmental structures, and is considering with big main projects like Olympic Games in 2014 in Sochi. Russia is preparing for such kind of projects, and we are providing very big infrastructure projects, developing the high-speed railway net, and in these fields Chinese companies are making their best to represent their experience of how
Where is the railway going to run?
All over Russia. So it's on the main cities which are providing through this championship for football 2018. So it's certainly Moscow, St. Petersburg, Kazan, Grozny, Rostov. A lot of cities, mostly in European side of Russia.
And only in the last 5 years we've been able to measure every real estate transaction over $5 million US flowing into the world. What we're seeing is, yes, you have to evaluate risk, global risk. At the moment, there's certain Asia is still a rising opportunity, and the US and Europe have their issues. But obviously, where there are issues, if you're prepared to take a risk, the greater the risk, the greater the opportunity for return.